Welcome to CITAM ChurchOnline. This is Karita Mbagara. I'm the Deputy Bishop of Christ is the Answer Ministries. Today I want us to consider a passage in the book of Genesis chapter 47. We can read from verse 7. This is when Joseph brings his father before Pharaoh. The Bible says, "Then Joseph brought his father Jacob in and presented him before Pharaoh. After Jacob blessed Pharaoh, Pharaoh asked him, 'How old are you?' And Jacob said to Pharaoh, 'The years of my pilgrimage are 130. My years have been very few and difficult, and they do not equal the years of the pilgrimage of my fathers.' Then Jacob blessed Pharaoh and went out from his presence." It is that verse 9 that holds my attention. Jacob says that my years are few and difficult. What made the years of Jacob difficult? We know that Jacob was a son of the promise. He was born actually with a promise. You know that when the two children were, that is Jacob and Esau, were in their mother's womb, there was a problem, and the mother went to inquire of the Lord, and she was told that two nations are in your womb, and the younger shall be served by the older. And the younger was Jacob. In other words, God had already said that Jacob would be the greater one. Jacob would be the one that is blessed. But he says here, towards the end of his life, that his life has been difficult in spite of the promise that God had made concerning him. Why this? Why had he suffered? I think his suffering was his own making. Because Jacob, in spite of the promise of God, he first lied to his father and told him that I am Esau. He tried to help God. Secondly, he got into trouble with his brother because of that, and the brother was vowing or had vowed that he would kill him. And what happened is that Jacob had to run away. So he's a fugitive. He is not at home. He goes to an uncle, but the uncle, instead of having mercy on him, makes him slave over he's in his taking care of the sheep. He slaves for his uncle. He decides he wants to get married to the cousin. But again, there is an exchange. The blessing that was to be his, he was to receive one of the sisters, Rachel, but instead there is an exchange and he receives a girl he didn't like. In other words, his blessing is exchanged. All these are difficult situations that Jacob is facing, making his life difficult. Eventually, he does get Rachel. But you know, for him to get the two girls or to get the love of his life, he has to slave for Laban for 14 years. So 14 years of hard labor. And then he stays there, and every time, if you have read the book of Genesis, you will find that when he's leaving, he tells Laban, "You have made my life miserable. Every time I tried to do something for myself, you would come and change. My wages were difficult to get from you." So it was a difficult life. And then on returning home, he has to go and face his brother who had vowed that he would kill him. And we know that at one point, Jacob gives a lot of his wealth. The same wealth that he has worked so hard to get, he has to give it as a bribe to his brother to pacify the brother so that he receives him. And more than that, he remains behind to struggle through the night, take hold of an angel so that his blessing can be assured, where his name is changed from Jacob to Israel. It was a difficult life. Then once he has settled back home, he has sons. And because of his own decision to love one of the sons more than the others and to show preferential treatment of Joseph, he ends up in having his son, thrown out. First ostracized while at home by his brothers, And because also Jacob thought of himself more highly, and he is perhaps bragging about what his dreams mean and what he will become in the future, instead of holding them in his heart, that causes him to have antagonism with his brothers. But also we know that Joseph was born of Rachel, who was the loved wife, and these sons knew their mother Leah was not the loved one. And eventually, Joseph is thrown into the pit, and later he is sold as a slave. He goes to Egypt. But as far as Jacob is concerned, because that's what he was told, his son has been torn by wild animals, and he lives with sadness. He actually says, I will go to the grave in sorrow. He could not be comforted. This is a difficult life. And that's why when he comes to Egypt, of course, by that time he gets to know that Joseph is living. There is a bit of relief because the son is alive, and also because there is hardship in the whole area. There is a famine that forces them to go to Egypt. He is able to get food, and his son is the prime minister. So things are better, but he has had a difficult life. But the question still lingers. What made it so difficult? And I want to say it is because Jacob could not trust God. Instead, he tried to help God. He tried to help God by lying to his father. And everywhere he went, he was trying to be the one in charge. And that's what happens to us, even when we are the chosen ones. Even when God has ordained we are going to be blessed. When we take charge of life instead of trusting God, then we will suffer. And we may get to a place where we ask, why me? It is because you are helping God. And today I have come to tell you, stop helping God. Let him be in charge. He knows how to take care of you. He knows how to take care of life. And if you let him, he will work out even what seems impossible. That blessing that was for Jacob had been pronounced before he was born, before he knew himself. So what was this business of him and the mother conspiring to try and help God? But you see, we may be condemning Jacob, but how many times have we also conspired and tried to help God and tried to take charge of our lives? What God has ordained for us will come to be. In the book of Psalms 139, verse 16, it is David who wrote and said, my days were ordained of you, and they are written in your book, every one of them. And I want to say, before you come down here, God has a purpose for your life, and God has already preordained what you are supposed to be. But you can make it very difficult. You can make it difficult for yourself by trying to interfere with God. God is at work and you're trying to stand in between. You are, as it were, moving the hand of God in what he is doing, because his ways are past finding out. Sometimes we think that God has missed it, or God has gone the wrong way, and that's when we try to interfere. But my brother, my sister, I want to tell you, your days and what you are supposed to be, your destination or your destiny is already known to God, and he is at it. Let him be, and it shall be well. And you will not come to the end of your life and you are living in lament, because that's what we see with Jacob. He is lamenting that my days were few, although they are not few. 130 years, very few people live those many years these days. But maybe in the day he lived, because he says, compared to his ancestors, there were few. And he says they are difficult. You don't have to live a life of regret, a life of lament. You can live a life of fulfillment because you have learned to allow God to be in charge. Trust him and then obey him. Very important. Trust and obey. Like the 2 feet or the shoes of your feet. You can call one trust and the other one obey. And you will be balanced in life, and you will be victorious, and you will come to the end of your life with much gladness. And that's what God desires for you. Stop helping God. If this is a blessing to you, please share it with people around you. And also, if you have never subscribed, I urge you, please subscribe. We keep sending messages from time to time, and we want to notify you when we put out a message so that we can continue being blessed. But also, let's hear, what do you think about what I have said? Leave a comment, and God bless you. Thank you.